A new year begins today.
For some of you, it's your first day.
For others, it's your last first day.
But all of your days at Michigan State will shape you for years to come.
This campus is full of possibilities, promise, and people determined to make a difference.
So while you're here, try something new.
Figure out what you like and what you don't. Then, do what you love.
Make the most of campus traditions.
Work in the community. Study abroad.
And join in with 75,000 Spartans to yell "Go Green."
Listen to each other.
To the sounds of the Spartan marching band.
The splash of the red cedar.
And to countless conversations that tumble out of research labs and residence halls.
There is greatness in the air here. Take it all in.
These years will be some of the most fun you'll ever have, but they will challenge you.
Along the way, you might change your major. You may change your views.
But when you leave here, you will be ready to change the world.
You are a Spartan, and Spartans will.
So Kris Kent, 1986. What have you been doing since then?
Oh, a bit of this and a bit of that. Fill it in time. Along the way, a couple of jobs, moved around the world. I did things that if you would have asked me in June of 1986, what would I be doing by May of 2021? Never in a million years would have been able to say this is what I did.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this because I thought you went down one path, but you went down another. What was the first job?
When I graduated, I got hired by a machinery company called Cincinnati Millicron, old family business, publicly traded, global leader in making equipment for machining metal and making plastic parts. So I got hired as a sales trainee by them and moved to Cincinnati. And I was supposed to be a sales trainee for a while. That ended up being a year instead of 6 months. And they had no job for me domestically. We were doing a lot of work with Koreans selling blow molding equipment to make Coke bottles in Korea. So they said, hang out and take care of Korea and Asia for a while we look for a domestic territory for you to open up. It never opened up. And I became the international guy. And I was with them for 12 years and ended up moving. I covered at one point Europe, Asia, and Latin America. So one week I'd be in Thailand, the next week I'd be in Colombia, back to Cincinnati, off to Ireland. I got stopped at immigration one time, and the guy coming into the US, he's looking through my passport. He's like, and I was 27, 28 at the time. And he's going, what do you do? Do you have a business card? Do you have brochures? Back when we had printed brochures. Because he goes, nobody your age does this. And
What was your degree?
I was a prestigious MLM major from the business school.
Yeah, I thought it was packaging, right?
No, material logistics management.
Oh, materials and logistics.
That's engineering. That's the smart people. I was with the business people.
But those were the two I'd always hear about was MLM, materials and logistics management, and packaging. So
it was the hot degree during that time. They don't have it anymore. It's morphed and changed into something else.
Well, and then Cincinnati Millicron, did you have a background or do you have any experience with manufacturing that you would know about them, or was that an open call? How'd you get there?
I got there through my father. So I come from a line of people in manufacturing. My grandfather worked for Dow Chemical. My dad worked for a machinery company in Beaverton, Michigan, where I'm from, making thermoforming equipment. So if you've ever had the McDonald's clamshell foam container, that's what a lot of people recognize are the foam containers for eggs. But they actually got started making refrigerator liners and being able to mold that in one piece. He knew people down in Cincinnati and they were looking to hire sales trainees, and a good friend of his who he'd worked with, he called him and said, are you looking? And they said, yeah. So I went down for an interview and got the job.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so, how do I say this? To get a job selling with them is a big deal, because they're an industry leader. I see their name everywhere. So
they were a leader. They've morphed and they've changed, and they typically only hired new hires as engineers. I was one of the few business people that they hired fresh out of school to come into the program.
All right, so you were there for a year in training.
Yeah.
No, were you traveling that whole first year though, or were
I
you doing everything
wasn't.
by phone?
I wasn't traveling. My dad, being in the plastics industry, he had how I got the Asia angle pretty much cemented was he had a customer who wanted to start making plastic Coke bottles in Thailand. And he was talking to my dad. My dad goes, I happen to know somebody who sells equipment for it. As luck would have it. And Dad said, you need to call Watna at White Pack or whatever it was called. So I got a hold of the guy. I sent him brochures. I did all this, and I went in, and he goes, I want to have a meeting with you in Bangkok. So Thailand was a foreign place in 1987.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Beaverton is a pretty thriving metropolis in mid-Michigan.
Yeah. So coming from the heart of it all. So I walked into my boss's office and said, here's everything I've done. He wants a meeting in Bangkok. And the guy started laughing, thinking it was a joke. And once he realized it was serious, people, sales trainees going on a big trip like that to Asia, usually that was VPs, high level, senior managers. And here's 24-year-old me asking, I want to have a meeting in Thailand and I need to go. And the guy said he wants to meet with Bill Kent's son, because that's who he trusted, my father. And in Asia, relationships and culture and trust is built. And my dad had sold this guy millions of dollars of equipment, serviced him, took care of him. And so he trusted Bill Kent's son, and that he didn't want to see an agent, a rep, or anything. They could come along as long as I was there.
Now that is perfect. And so that was after a year, or was it in the first year that you made that trip?
Within the first year.
Wow. And then it just led to all this other travel.
Once you, particularly in American companies back then, once you get the international label, it's I don't want to call it a scarlet letter, but you are tattooed and you own it. And then all of a sudden, oh, Kris is our international guy. If it wasn't Canada, sometimes Mexico, depending, anything else, they was like, oh, give it to Kris. And I like doing it, was reasonably successful, made a ton of mistakes, learned along the way, and it just kept rolling. And they said, do you want to do this? You're doing well. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'd like to get back to a domestic territory, which never happened.
Yeah. So 12 years of international travel. And I got to mention one of the perks, because I think I talked to you when you went to the Olympics. Was that in Korea?
Mm-hmm. In 1988.
Yeah. And I mean, that was within 2 years of working there, right? So
yeah, that caused a lot of heartache, because I was told, don't go to the Olympics, it'll look bad. Don't go to Korea during the Olympics time or anything. And the agent said, you need to come. We have a meeting. There's a big project we're working on, and you need to come. And I went in with this fax, because we didn't have email back then. And my boss called Korea and he goes, we need him here. He's the rep. There's business going on. Went over, got an order for $1.5 million. Got to go to the Olympics and see the American men play the Russian men in volleyball and win the gold medal. And I get tingly now just recalling that and how exciting that was. It's right there in the top 5 of memorable experiences in my life.
Yeah, I think I ran into you. It must have been right after that we touched base. I saw you up on campus or something, which is great, which is just another perk. But I mean, the amount of travel you've done, world probably seems pretty small.
It's just Shortest distance is a straight line. It's just a straight line between 2 points. You know, to get on an airplane and fly to Hong Kong for a meeting, or go see friends in the UK because you want to visit, go to a birthday party or a wedding anniversary. Doing something like this is, you just don't think about it. You buy a ticket, you get on, and it's maybe just 12 hours in between where you left and where you need to get to go. And you're always focused on the end and what am I going to be doing once I get there.
Well, and like you just said, the experience, there's nothing out of the realm, and it also, your mindset is nothing is impossible, which we'll get to that. I know we're going to talk about that later. So after Cincinnati Millicron, where'd you end up?
So I was traveling 50% of the time on the road and going to Asia primarily, but you know, hitting points in between. And things were really heating up in 94, 95 in Asia. And we brought on a master distributor and we're changing how we're doing business. And I just went and I said, if my territory is Asia, then I should live in my territory. You know, the travel is really starting to be difficult. I'm tired, social life, everything. But the main thing is, if the business is there and I'm in charge of the business, then I want to be in the territory. And they said, yeah, that makes sense. And I moved to Singapore in 96, opened a regional office, hired on some more distributors, and started living in Asia. Worked for Cincinnati Millicron then.
And so, okay, so we're 12 years out. And what was the transition?
The transition was in 1997, you had the Asian financial crisis, everything tanked, currencies devalued 20 to 40% overnight. I was selling in US dollars, so that just made equipment they were buying completely out of reach. You know, the whole business came to a screeching halt. They wanted me to move to Germany and sell US made equipment to Germans, which just ain't gonna work. This is the home of Mercedes-Benz and BMW. I can't walk.
Precision equipment. Yeah.
We are very good, no doubt. I could have every accent in the world, but selling American-made equipment to Germans ain't gonna cut it. And I wanted to do something different. And a company was looking for a sales manager in Southeast Asia, living in Singapore, who had an industrial background. I answered the ad. It was a print ad in the Wall Street Journal. And so I wrote a letter to a post office box. I think maybe there was an email address, but I know I sent a letter to a PO box in Chicago, and got contacted by the guys, interviewed with the owner, privately held company called Bylink, just west of Chicago in Bloomingdale, kind of near Elmhurst area. And hit it off. And so got hired by them. I was impressed that a privately held company by a pretty conservative guy had opened businesses outside of the US. He had a plant in Singapore, and he had a plant in Scotland, and 2 in the US. And Motorola was a big customer, and they were expanding in those territories at the time. Most American companies weren't doing that. They were America-centric, and we're going to stay here. And he said, well, I'm following my customers. I'm going to throw my lot in with them. And he had a really interesting worldview that I liked.
And how long did that job last?
19 years.
Wow. All with the same company, all while you were in Asia?
All in Asia. Yeah, I moved to China in 2002.
Man, you saw some change going on too.
Yeah, it was, Singapore hadn't changed a whole lot during that time. China was just at the beginning when they were really taking off and starting to grow. My first trip to China was in 1988, and it was, you still saw Mao suits, you still saw a lot of people riding bicycles. I mean, it's still riding a lot of bicycles when I moved, but it was starting to change. Shanghai was really an international city, and you could feel the energy and the vitality and the entrepreneurialness of it. And it was growing. It was clearly writing on the wall that China was going to be where things are, and not to be in that would be a detriment to my career. So I told the bosses, I think I'm going to go hang out in China for 6 months and see what I could do. And then that lasted 11 years.
Wow. All right. And so after 19 years there, what happened next?
We had several years of things not working well. We had a small team, 6 of us ran an $80 million business, and we were holding on to that 80, but it was hard and we weren't making money. And I could tell something was wrong, but I'm thinking, all right, I'll do what I need to do for the team. I was asked to pull away from a lot of the marketing and different things that I was doing as the VP of sales and focus on selling domestically, just to have another set of feet on the ground, because I'd moved back to the US in 2013 and living in LA. And so did that. They walked in January of 2018, they walked the president out of the door, fired him, some restructure, said, hang out, please help us. But I was let go in July of 2018.
Yeah, through restructuring.
So, they downsized everything. They closed all of North America, moved it all to our operations in China.
Now, so you're already in LA. You've been there you've been there now for almost 10 years, right? 9 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which brings us to your current position, which is being self-employed, right?
I had one more position. I worked for a year for a company down in Orange County as an intern job. It was a startup. It was actually a restartup with this spectacular metal that's been around for a while, but it's at $100 a pound. It's just a tough sell.
What is it?
It's called liquid metal.
Okay.
So you take an ingot, you melt, you heat it up to 900 degrees. You inject it into a mold just like a plastic, and then you create a molded metal part. It's stronger than titanium. It has a molecular structure, so again, stronger than titanium, molds like plastic, and has precision machining precision tolerances. It's really fantastic stuff. It's just very expensive.
And so, is this something like plastic? Would it be able to be used in an injection mold where it just takes the form of it, or how does that work?
The process looks almost exactly like molding a plastic part. Heat it up, plunger it into the mold opens, and the part drops out fully formed, ready to go, with minimal processing, maybe drilling a hole or doing something like this. And then it's able to put into primarily medical devices. It's being used on the Tesla, the crossover on the gull wing doors as a protector for the latch, because it's super hard. So I did that for a year. They restructured twice in 2 years.
So, okay, so now we're to your consulting firm, right? Which is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say coaching, though, are you talking to everybody, or are you gearing it towards a specific industry?
There's several types of coaching. There's life coaching, performance coaching, leadership, executive, business. I'm focusing on the leadership, executive, business part. Working with individuals in companies, they want to looking for support. Maybe they want to get a promotion, looking to change jobs, be more effective, time management. There's a whole host of things. What do they want to work on?
Well, and I'm just curious as to why you went down the coaching route and why not consulting, for especially international consulting, which I would see you as extremely valuable in that regard. Not that you wouldn't be for coaching. It just seems like corporations would love to have you come in and consult and go make things happen for them, since you've proven it time and time again.
Both are possible. A sub vein of what I'd like to do would be some type of international business coaching. I am putting together a series of B2B writings that take my experience being in the field, not being a consultant, not working for, no offense to any of the consulting companies out there, but having been on the ground and experienced it. And not selling a software or technology or anything, putting together a series of B2B articles. Getting into consulting or getting into coaching are both bring their challenges as a new person, right? I was working with a guy down in Orange County who was doing something similar that I want to do, and he was really struggling with it to launch his business off the ground and get traction. What I see coaching is it's actually more readily accessible and available now that I can start working on. There's people out there. There's an explosion of coaching. It's not for the C-suite anymore. It's for mid-level managers, could be entry-level managers. The companies want to develop their people. Now, they'll send them for technical training all day, but they're starting to understand the value of coaching. So for me, this is an entry in. I got hired on by an online platform called Torch. So I'm honing my skill. I'm able to become a better coach, spread my name, and get paid for it. Where consulting would be really pounding the pavement. So as I do both, they will meld at some point.
Well, and again, I see so much value in you and your experience, especially when we talk about international. Whether it's someone who just takes a position, has no idea what they're in for, I could see corporations bringing you into the training team and saying, yeah, here's the technical background, the specs, and all your products. But the most important thing is, how are you going to assimilate? How are you going to identify another person's culture, and when you're effective and when you completely just fucked up?
Your Pontiac dealer brings you the All-American Game of the Week. This week, it's Michigan State versus Oregon State. Opening gun in a brand new football season.
The whole thing is, when you go in and you approach the Koreans, it's different than approaching the Chinese because of cultural differences. And even the most minute details, which you know way more than I do about this, but even the minute details could make or break a deal. And that's where you are so extremely valuable. And anybody who would bring you into a group that's just getting ready to go over there, whether it's their first time or they've been doing it for years, they could use your skill set from your experience. And you referred to it earlier. You said, I made a lot of mistakes when I first got over there. That's so valuable that you can relay that to someone else. And I don't know, I think it's really exciting. And I can see people coming from other countries here and helping them assimilate as well. You are so valuable with all of this.
Well, you mentioned communicating with customers. There's as much of a challenge in communicating internally in global organizations, just amongst the team. Having been there, where we had German, Scottish, people from Singapore, Malaysia, China, Japan, Sweden, the U.S. Working with your own team and understanding when people communicate and what they're saying, that get over that challenge, because your customers absolutely, but there's as many challenges and opportunities to do better, to improve just on your own internal team, and how do things work. When somebody in China is actually saying yes, are they saying no? Or
right,
all that sort of thing. How do you approach the Germans when you're sitting in a multicultural, cross-cultural meeting? How in the heck do you actually understand what everybody's saying, even though they're all speaking English?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I'm gonna jump on to something else you mentioned. Will this be a part of the writing that you're doing too? Will you get in depth on things like this, or is this more a one-on-one when people have specific questions? Because, man, I could just see you telling stories and people would get so much out of it.
So the first one I'm doing is called Let Him Yell, and handling customer service issues in a B2B environment. B2C is different. B2B is more complicated, multi-level, more people involved, from a junior purchasing person to maybe a senior VP of engineering. And when you have a problem, how does that, how you handle it and what you do with this can make or break a relationship. You get the email, you get the phone call, you listen to them expound whatever they need to say, and then the very first thing you should do after that is ask, is there anything else? let them clear the cup. Get it all out, because then you're going to get more information. They're giving you an opportunity to become a hero. So I'm calling it the Going from Zero to Hero program. Right now you're zero, and as long as they're talking to you, it may be yelling, it may be a lot of different things, and as long as they're not insulting all of your intelligence, by the way, you made a mistake. Okay. And it's you, it's not you. Let them clear it out. They're giving you information. They're still communicating, because once they stop communicating, it's game over and they're done.
Right.
That's it. There's going back is impossible. There's studies out there. It costs 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer as it does to keep the ones you got. That's the old adage. My whole deal is the new adage. It costs more to get a new customer than to keep the ones you got. And focus your energy on customer retention and long-term customer value. So I walk people through a process, and it do's and don'ts and things to consider. And the other thing to consider is when they're doing this and they're expounding whatever they're doing, you don't know what's going on for them. There's 2 different issues at work. Boss they don't like, business is lousy. This was the high profile program. They promoted you as the supplier of all suppliers, and you've just let them down. They also are people. They have personal lives. And so things going on at home, financial, relationship, COVID is a big one. So we tend to go back to, if I follow all these rules and let me immediately solve your need and keep you quiet, I'm saying slow things down. To go faster, slow down. Build in quality that way. And again, keep them talking. You're getting more information, and they're providing more opportunities for you to support them along the way. And use the phone. I think email is a great thing that is a great detriment, and I try to avoid it. Use it to confirm what you talked about. So these are the types of experiences I'm bringing and writing about. Presentations, I call it, do you do molding? When I was at BioLink, we were known as a metal company. As I came in and we started doing plastic molding, I'd give a whole presentation, slides, talk about this. And if I had a nickel for every time somebody said, do you do molding? I'd have a lot of nickels, is about the best way to describe it. Because they're not listening. They're on their computer. The internet is the killer of presentation attention in my book. So again, these are just a couple examples of things that I want to talk about that I'm not seeing that's out there that people aren't talking about.
Well, and that brings us to, you have this business. What is it called again?
So right now I'm just going by Kris Kent as I develop myself and my brand. In selling a service or in selling myself, it's me that I'm bringing. It's me to bring them to the table.
So what is the website?
It's under development, like everything else.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to do that, Tick, because I understand how that goes. But at the same time,
fine, John.
Yeah, people will know how to get a hold of you from this, but that's the main thing, is understanding the value that you bring. How many languages do you speak?
Defined speak.
Order a beer. How many different ones?
You can probably do it in about 6.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
I speak taxi Chinese. I can do a taxi in probably about 6 languages. I can order a beer in 6 languages.
Well, and then there's dialects too, which, I mean, the thing is, it's pretty impressive the last 30 years of what you've been up to. And most people don't leave their hometown. And, the fear factor is high. Maybe the last 4 years, fear has been even higher. So you are extremely valuable by someone who got outside. I'm not going to say you got out of your comfort zone, because you were always out of your comfort zone, but at the same time, you really took it and ran with it, where most people would not be willing to do the same things you did, which would have been prohibitive. And I don't know, I'm very impressed. And we're just scratching the surface of the last 30 years, because we haven't even talked about the cultural side and the different things that you've done. We just, the few things that you took advantage of that we mentioned are just minimal compared to what you've done, which we're going to do that over drinks next.
Absolutely.
But I am so excited that we had this time to at least cover some of this and talk about where you're going with it. So the last thing I want to end with is, if you were to identify your ideal customer, what would it be?
So my ideal client is going to be a mid-level to senior level executive who is performing really well right now, and they're looking to just knock it up to the next level, and that they're willing to take some risks and challenges on themselves and say, I think here's where I can really do better, and bring some vulnerability to themselves. I want to avoid the word transformation, but it's about opening. Bring some vulnerability and experience yourself and see possibility in a new way. That would be the person I want to work with.
Well, and I can visualize being that person and listening to what you've done and go, wow, I would really like to know how he did this. And it would just open up a whole new world. And by you giving a roadmap of what you've done and some of your advice on key aspects, all aspects, whether it's the job, the move, the living, the transportation, all the things that you had to deal with, that would alleviate a lot of concern, fear, unknown type stuff, and help people develop a roadmap based on your experiences. So I see this as really valuable. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for you and your new transition, because I know you have a lot to offer, and by becoming a coach like this, people have a chance to take advantage of it. So thanks. This is cool.
Yeah. Hey, I just wanted to add one last thing as you were talking. I believe everybody should live outside their home country for a year. Just a year. If you can do it for work, if you can do it, if finances will allow it, go live outside your home country for a year and experience that. You don't have to do 18 years like I did. If you do, great. But get outside your home country. It's a great, wonderful experience.
You find out who you are.
And the little challenges, they become fun. But you find out who you are. You meet the most interesting people. It's a confidence booster in a lot of ways. So.
I can't think of better advice, period, for someone getting out of school or somebody who's been doing it for 30 years. I think everyone needs to do that, especially today, to find out that we're all pretty much the same.
Yep.
Deep down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I love that. I'm excited. I'm excited about what you've got going on, and I'm excited about our series too.